Nitong dibdib, tila 10,000 awitin natapos kong ligain. Ito ang tunay na damdamin, tanggapin at dinggin.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Is everyone clear? Hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series for the ETCOR project, SAGIP, MANANALIKSIK, Unveiling the Truth and Embracing Reality, True Faithfulness with the Data, a call of every researcher. So, beloved students, faculty members, coordinators, teachers of prospective school and universities, and invited resource speaker, a pleasant evening to all of you. Welcome to the first session of the ETCOR Educational Research Center through its advocacy project, Mananaliksik, a 3 days webinar series with a theme, Unveiling the Truth and Embracing Reality Through Faithfulness with the Data, a call of every researcher. This is an ETCOR Educational Research Center under its advocacy project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, which main aim is to help the researchers, the students, and professional all over the country, especially during the time of pandemic. Project Sagip Mananaliksik and its difference from Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone. This webinar series has advisory coming from the Department of Education, which allows us to orchestrate and strengthen the research capability of our students and teacher. And for this evening, this will be our first session with the topic, finding answer to the research questions. We are very much delighted to have you joining in this virtual platform with a common goal of strengthening our research capacity through learning important points from the discussion of every research paper. As we begin our program, I acknowledge the presence of important people behind this at core or embracing the culture of research. I have to recognize Dr. Bernadette L. Lijarde for everyone and Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carbajal for the one-on-one project. And also the virtual presence of our research president and founder, Dr. Richard P. Sanchez, as the head of all the research consultant of ETCOR. I would like also to acknowledge the presence of all our regional coordinators and OIC coordinators of every region all over the Philippines. To give us a welcome message as part of the EDCOR growth community, may I call on one of our, before I start, I would like to introduce first myself. I am Professor Jefferson S. Marcelo. I am the research coordinator of the Taguig City University, and I am also the appointed city coordinator for the Taguig City under the National Capital Region. So it's nice to see you here in our virtual platform, joining listen to one of the most shared by one of the experts and research consultant in the organization. And to give us a welcome message for this webinar series, may I call on one of our research consultants and at the same time, the ETCOR research consultant, master teacher National High School, and Associate Professor 3 at the Ritual Colleges Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a virtual round of Randolph G. Valentino to deliver the welcome message. Hi, Doc. Good evening po.
Good day to everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Jefferson. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends of Research Consultant at ETCOR Educational Research Center, I am pleased to welcome you to the ETCOR Educational Research Center Project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for Everyone, a free 3-day webinar entitled Unveiling the Truth and Embracing Reality Through Faithfulness with the Data, a call of every researcher. For the day one, findings, the answers to the research questions. In this webinar, I recognize some familiar names of participants from governments, the private sector, and major groups. I believe that by participating in this webinar, we are in the right place and the right time. Together, let us accelerate the exchange of ideas and scaling up of good practices. I am especially pleased that the discussion and activities here will inform the high level of research forum. I am confident that you will find new ideas, fresh energy, and novel partnership to sustain your efforts in support of the ETCOR. In behalf of ETCOR, I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Valentino, for sharing a welcome message and inspiring message to all our consultant attended this virtual and all our attendees all over the Philippines. It was truly indeed that research is one of the most fundamental tool in order for us to reach the success and development in a certain community. And as with over time, new light into various fields as management, human behavior, finance, planning, marketing, and many more. Some have termed it as a disciplinary study, which drives the perspective of various disciplines, indicating that the research community should seize the opportunity to reevaluate the fundamental role of research by critically evaluating itself as area of scientific inquiry. That's why we're very privileged to have the first session for this webinar, the 3 days webinar series, with regards to questions or the statement of the questions. And and to introduce our speaker for this evening, it's my honor to share his background and profile in the field of research and in the academia. Mr. Catungal has completed the following academic degrees: Master's in Philippinology, major in Language, Culture, and the Arts from the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Marikina in 2019. Master's of Science in Mathematics at Eulogio Amang Rodriguez Institute of Science and Technology, or IRIS, in 2017. Master of Arts in Education, major in Special Education at Roosevelt College Foundation Incorporated in 2015, and also earning his bachelor's degree of secondary education, major in English at San Mateo Municipal College in 2014. He earned also the Bachelor of Science in Psychology at ICCT Colleges in 2013 and Bachelor of Science in Mathematics at Eulogio Amang Rodriguez Institute of Science and Technology in 2008. He also completed international courses through Coursera, namely problem solving using computational thinking at the University of Michigan, positive psychology at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, advanced writing at University of California in Brine, and assessment and teaching of 21st century skills at the University of Melbourne. He has also published articles in an international journal. His previous talk was in a national seminar workshop at the Philippine Normal University Manila, where he discussed the interface of English and Filipino in an online classroom. At present, he is a senior high school STEM Master Teacher 1, and handling both qualitative and quantitative researches for senior high school at Lagro High School, Schools Division of Quezon City, and a member of different prestigious organizations here and abroad, namely Mixed Methods, International Research Association, Linguistic Society of the Philippines, Asian Qualitative Research Association, International Organization of Educators and Researchers Incorporated. He is also an editorial member of the international journal Central Journal of Literature, Philosophy, and Culture. Without further ado, I'm proud to introduce our distinguished speaker for the first session. Let's give a round of applause or virtual applause to Sir Randolph G. Catungal. Hi, sir. Good
Hi,
evening
sir.
po.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for the welcoming introduction of my academic qualifications, or I mean my experiences when it comes to academe and research. So I welcome all the participants for attending this webinar. And also I want to express my gratitude to our dearest founder, Dr. Sanchez, for giving me the chance to talk about this lecture. So before I start, let me first share my screen. Am I loudly heard ba, Sir Jefferson?
Yes, sir. Loud and
Thank you
clear po.
po. Okay po. Can you see my slide now? Wait lang.
Yes, sir. We can now see your presentation po.
Okay. Okay. So good evening, everyone. So in behalf of ETCOR, I'll be talking on finding the answers to research questions. So most of us are actually asking how we are going to find the right answers. But before that, how we're going to ask the right questions. And actually, this topic or title is actually complex in a way that there are actually many things to consider. Okay, so I have set questions to ponder. First, how rigorous are the studies in offline and online environment? Second, does impact of changes in a society in a given study rely on pedagogical reality and in determining the directions of its transformation? Third, I'll be trying to answer why this phenomenon has been taken often as phenomenology. Fourth, why qualitative research is regarded as complex in processing. Fifth, why quantitative research is most often seen as a straightforward approach in most studies. And last, what's my experiential approach to asking the right question and to find the right answers? Okay, so let's begin. So most of us are actually asking how rigorous are the studies when it comes in this kind of online, since we are facing the pandemic right now. So how rigorous are the studies? So that I wrote here rigor, to be or not to be. In 2007, Gesta stated that if we really want to improve the relation between research, policy, and practice in education, we need an approach in which technical questions about education can be addressed in close connection with normative, educational, and political questions about what is educationally desirable. Upon underlying the words research, policy, practice, and education, I want to know to the participants, can you please key in your responses on how do you see the importance of these three words? Are these really important? Can you please type in yes or no in the chat box? Thank you. Sir, can you please read the answers of them? Sir Jefferson, thank you.
Yes, sir. Majority of the answer from our participants says that it's yes. The three terms that is seen in our virtual screen are important, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sir Jefferson. Yes, you're right, no? Research policy and practice in education are all important. But how do we find or think about on the interrelationship or the relationship among these three words? So the extent to which the government not only allows the research field to raise this set of questions, but actively supports and encourages researchers to go beyond simplistic questions about what works may well be an indication of the degree to which a society can be called democratic. So as you observe, since the shift of our face-to-face educational system to the online synchronous and asynchronous learning or learning modalities, there was actually a huge difference or changes. And that's actually lying on the way we conduct researches, the policy. Every country has its own policy. So in our country, Philippines, we have this private sector and public sector in which there is actually a difference on the policy. One thing I have seen or noticed is that the one given to the public school system when we talk about the learning delivery modality or the LDM2, di ba? It was actually given to us on unpredicted time, and many teachers are actually bombarded with that task. And actually, before I opened the Facebook, no, and the email to be able to enter on the Zoom link given by our founder, we are actually in the meeting about the LDM2. And it's actually we actually saw that teachers are actually also stressed about the task, no, given by or set by the Department of Education. But how we really address this kind of problem? It's actually lie on how the school, the teaching, the non-teaching personnel would actually plan well on the actions that they may be actually set to be able to address this kind of problem or situations. But at the end of the day, there will always be a problem that we can actually face. But I think the full support of every person or every stakeholder in the academy or in the school that we are working for should actually have support or the full support. So research policy and practice in education are all important, but the shift of the traditional face-to-face to online synchronous and asynchronous learning modality have a huge difference, and that difference will actually be seen evidently in our practice. For example, in our online classroom, whether synchronous or asynchronous, for asynchronous, many students are actually not responding or replying to our questions. No, for example, in a group chat messenger, only few or some of them are just replying or giving their responses to our questions. So it's really difficult for the part of the teachers to be able to address all their needs, no, their academic needs. Okay, so moving on. Wait, nawala. Wait lang ah. Ba't nawala siya? Wait lang po, sir, ma'am. Ba't nawala? Yan. Okay, so rigor pa more. We are actually, I started speaking about rigor because rigor is actually essential to our research or studies. In February 2010, John Q. Easton, the newly appointed head of IES in the administration of President Barack Obama, stated the following priorities for the agency. Since this is actually 2010, I think there are actually more years that can be updated or compared to this year. But I think this is actually important and essential to my presentation. So the first priority is that make our research more relevant and usable. So the italics added by the author. Yes, research in this time of pandemic has been actually seen, no, most of the students as, difficult. Yes, it's difficult. Even though we have this ethnography when it comes to researching, using ethnography, using the internet for ethnography, but how are we sure that these studies are rigorous? So later I'll be mentioning on how do we apply the rigor in our research. Second, the shift from a model of dissemination to a model of facilitation. And it's actually true or evident because before, it's only about dissemination of memorandum, no, the implementation of these things, the curriculum. But, there must be actually facilitation. It's actually a misconception of most teachers that when we talk about of teachers just as facilitators of human learning, they tend to forget that we are also teachers in the classroom. However, facilitation because we are actually monitoring their progress, their academic or learning progress. Third, create stronger links between research, development, and innovation. And these three words or keywords are actually interrelated or related to each other. Okay, how can we actually find a stronger linkages? I think ETCOR has, yeah, I saw I as one of the research consultants of ETCOR have seen this, no, that ETCOR is actually a very good organization, no. We cater to the research needs of the senior high school students and other teachers. So these three things or words are very important and these are related. Fourth, build the capacity of states and school districts to use longitudinal data, conduct research, and evaluate their programs. And when we talk about longitudinal data, we know that it's not only researching for a short period of time, but the word longitudinal is long, meaning to say we have to employ other strategies to be able to come up with rigorous longitudinal studies. Fifth, develop a greater understanding of schools as learning organizations. And yes, that schools, we know that schools in the Philippines actually vary when it comes to research policy. But I think if these schools have different standards when it comes to researching, I think there must be a single standard because the issue of rigor has been actually present and is actually becoming more evident when it comes to research. Okay, so next slide. So rigor to the infinitesimal desire. So I think when we talk about the infinitesimal from the concept of calculus, it's actually infinite, never-ending issue of the rigority or the rigor of the researches. So from this bullet, our troubles do not arise because human events are in principle unlawful. Man and his creations are part of the natural world. The trouble, as I see it, is that we cannot store up generalizations and constructs for ultimate assembly into a network. And actually, it is actually stated or mentioned by Cronbach in 1975. And if I'm not mistaken, Cronbach has actually contributed a lot when it comes to quantitative research. That's the sample computation, etc. So what's the problem about this statement? The problem is actually on the man, no? Tayo mismo. Kasi we were created as part of the natural world and we never stop from actually dreaming of having a rigorous output or work. And when it comes to the rigor of the study, yes, there's been an issue and it's actually difficult, no, to actually address the issue of rigor. But I think when we set single standard from one country to the rest of the countries, I think we will actually achieve the standard for rigor. Second statement, similarly, Glass in 2008 wrote, I do not believe that research studies aimed at shaping policy, mired as they are in debates between research methods experts, have any determinative value in shaping the current nature of public education or its future. Glass went on to describe the weakness of research in other fields, including medicine, in settling policy disputes. One only has to consider the scientific evidence currently marshaled for and against vaccinating young children against diseases such as chickenpox, measles, mumps, polio, and rubella. As you actually listen to what I have mentioned or read a while back, this is actually related to what we are facing now, the COVID-19 pandemic. And you know what? I had this fear of being vaccinated, even though there are lots of grants for vaccinations, but there's still the fear of being vaccinated. Why? Because we are not yet sure that this is actually effective, no? And we are not sure that on the long run there is no any negative manifestation or effect of the vaccination. I respect those people who got being vaccinated because they believe on the efficiency and effectiveness of the vaccine. Okay? Is it any wonder that sometimes vociferous debates still range about a wide range of educational programs and practices such as whole language approaches to teaching reading, constructivist pedagogical methods, and teaching evolution in science education. And this actually the major topics that actually being seen by this set of authors. In English and Filipino, it's actually being debatable, right? The approach in language teaching. What's the best approach? Siyempre, obviously there is no best single approach or method of teaching any subject or area. However, we have to actually read um, essential related studies or literature in order to find which among the approaches are considered to be effective and efficient. So, without researching, even though we are master of our own fields, our teaching may become a failure if we will not conduct proper researching or when the so-called rigor researching. When we talk about constructivist pedagogical methods, we are actually on the repetition or repetitive practice of testing how effective are the constructivist methods. We know this theory, we know this hypothesis, but we have to find a related study saying that this is effective. If not, then our claim may be a fallacy or a mistake or an error. And also, when it comes to teaching evolution science education, yes, I admire those science teachers or educators that they can actually teach science in an online setting. I know it's very difficult or complex to be able to teach your science lesson in an online setting. And I know that it's actually difficult. So I salute those science teachers and math teachers that they can provide a good discussion of these subject areas. Okay, continue. What can we expect from research that emphasizes or emphasizing rigor? The status of research deemed educational would have to be judged first in terms of its discipline quality and secondly in terms of its impact. And it's actually evident even in this time of pandemic. How quality is the instruction that we are giving to our students? How are we sure or certain that there is a positive or good impact on the instructions that we give to them? That is why when we teach a certain or specific area or subject in an online setting, we have to choose your comfortable language. I know that for those who are teaching subjects that need English language as their medium or language of instruction, you have to think about of the language or medium that you are using. Because if MOI and LOI or the medium instruction and language of instruction, some of the researchers or related studies are saying that MOI and LOI are the same. But if you're going to go beyond the box, you think beyond the box, MOI and LOI are different. Why? For those teachers who are using MOI, for example, you are teaching math or science, and you will be using or you are using dominantly the language of Filipino. You think about of how can you actually answer questions that are actually related to Filipino if your students ask you on that way or manner. And also in such a way that, for example, the students are actually having this Filipino vocabulary, which are also not evident in your Filipino language. Meaning to say, there are things that your students know, and you have the things that you do not know, and that's actually existing. We are also humans, and we are capable of making or arriving to a mistake or error. But see to it that we actually give corrective feedback, or we see to it that we immediately correct our errors inside the classroom, because it's actually a harsh thing if the wrong teaching that we have given or delivered to our students will be transmitted or passed to other students. Okay, second, poor discipline is no discipline. It's actually, yes. Speaking of in the quantitative analysis, yeah, the interval scale or the values are actually nearer to each other. For example, the weighted mean for the poor discipline, that's actually nearer to the zero as no discipline. So we consider that poor discipline is no discipline at all. Second, an excellent research without impact is not educational. It's actually on the level of the rigor of the research. If that is for senior high school, we can consider a research without impact, because we have to see the modified and enhanced learning competencies. Is there such thing of the impact there, saying that we have to actually um, make it obligatory or compulsory to our students that the research must be having an impact problem? So we have to think about that. But in the master's and doctorate, it's actually depending on the policy of your institution or school. Okay. Unfortunately, it is exceedingly difficult to detect the impact of educational research. It is actually true or evident. It's hard. It's difficult to detect the impact of one research. I think yes, action research has something to do with this. No, in our classroom, we have to think of a certain problem that we can address in the present or in the future. Okay, and that's action research. And action research is actually one major category of a research that can be quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods. Okay, it depends on your research objective. Okay, an ever-expanding body of literature clearly lacks substantial evidence of impact, especially in terms of what teachers and their students do day in and day out. This is true. Okay, I had I have read literature saying that um, feedback from students about teachers are more essential than the feedback of teachers about their students. And that's actually the next table. Feedback was most powerful when it was from the student to the teacher, rather than from the teacher to the student as commonly viewed. Yes. As you compare, I don't want to conclude this way, no, but I experienced this. In a private sector, all the seminars, workshops, trainings are provided for teachers. But how for those teachers who are employed in a public or institution are actually being selected or chosen? It's actually difficult for the administrators to address that. Let's face the fact that there is always a politics or political agenda on that matter, and we cannot actually prevent that or avoid that. Okay. When teachers sit or at least are open to feedback from students as to what students know, what they understand, where they make errors, when they have misconceptions, when they are not engaged, then teaching and learning can be synchronized and powerful. Feedback to teachers helps make learning visible. And this is true. We have to involve our students to our classroom, to our class, before they feel that they belong to the classroom. Even though how genius we are when it comes to our classroom, but if we did not apply some affective domain in our teaching, then the teaching will become a failure. Okay? It's actually related to research. If we not put our whole heart when it comes to research undertaking, we will not be able to achieve a quality or a rigorous study or work. Okay, next. So I got this from Carroll's Model of School Learning in 1963, and I think it has shaped the educational system of many countries around the world. So let me give a glimpse of this model. So on the left side, we have this aptitude, and we know that aptitude varies from one student to other students. And you think about the time that the students need to learn. And the four arrows, opportunity to learn, ability to understand instruction, quality of instructional events, and perseverance are all other factors that may affect the academic achievement of our students. And that's evident. And and that is evident also from this time. But what other researchers are saying about this? So other studies are actually arguing or breaking this model. Take note that model can also be a theory. That is why when I talk or give my talk or deliver my talk from PNU, there is one speaker argued that we have to start mastering our first language before we master our second language. Take note. Be reminded of the theory. It is only a theory or assumption that there must be a mastery of our L1 or first language before we master our second language. If we know the policy of bilingual education policy, present po yan, no? Evident yan. Tingnan nyo, no? Tingnan nyo rin na the babies when inside the mother's womb, you try, no? You try to watch in a YouTube na gumamit doon si researcher, no, ng something na device to be able to identify what communication skill has been learned already by the baby inside the womb of the mother. And it's actually the listening. So how will you say that L1 should be the first one to master? Okay? And we know that all languages are not pure. It has been actually since our country has been colonized by different races, no? The Spaniards, the Americans, the Japanese. So do you think that our Filipino in our language Filipino is a pure Filipino? No. It has been actually influenced by other languages. And as saying, as claiming that first language should be mastered, to think about also of how did DepEd implemented the mother tongue-based multilingual education. Di ba nagkaroon ng pagbabago, changes na tinanggal nila yung ano daw, yung mother tongue sa grade 1 to 3. Hindi ko alam kung happening sa ibang division offices. No? Kasi may nagtanong yan during my talk sa PAD. And I'm not aware of that at tinanggal tapos binalik daw ulit. So ang ano ko diyan, tingnan niyo yung education system before, 'di ba? Na parang mas maganda na may English, may Filipino. Kasi naman ang Philippine Bilingual Education Policy, ang sinasabi lang doon na gustong magtulungan ng Filipino at ang English para magkaroon ng quality education. Para magkaroon sila ng proficiency sa parehong English and Filipino language, 'di ba? So hindi sinabi na kailangan mas magaling ka sa Filipino, kailangan mas magaling ka sa English. No? Usually, ano yan eh, makikita mo, theory lang yan. Kaya nga, di ba, meron tayong theory of second or first language acquisition. These are only theories. Still, we have to research, we have to conduct a rigorous research. Okay. Nonetheless, research that properly emphasizes relevance should focus on time as one of the most important variables of concern for teachers and students. Kasi kanina tanong, di ba? Ang tinatanong natin, gaano ka-rigor, ka-quality yung ginawa natin study? Itingnan muna natin, no? Let us see first, how relevant is the focus of our time? Kasi baka gusto mong gumawa ng longitudinal study, pero yung time frame mo, 2 months lang. Ano kaya yun, no? Paano ka makakapag-come up sa rigorous study kung 2 months ang longitudinal study mo? Mahalaga ang time, di ba? Sabi nga, mahalaga ang egg sa lugaw para essential. Di ba? Depende yun. Okay. Although it is obvious that teachers worry constantly about time and other variables that should concern them, but does not to a sufficient degree is curricular alignment. Kasi nga itong kay 2009 na gawa or study ni Martin and Ciresi, binangga niya to, di ba, yung kay Carroll model. Siyempre, kung binangga niya yan, may binangga rin siya iba pa na mas updated kay Carroll. Di ba? Kaya nga kung theory yan, for qualitative research, we can actually break a theory and make another theory. Di ba? Gagawa tayo or create another theory. Okay. Misalignment is a major reason why so many innovative designs fail. And it's true. Di ba? Kahit anong galing ng guro, kung hindi align yung curriculum doon sa ating ituturo. No? Tingnan din natin, no? Baka naman yung curriculum natin, I'm not saying this na trial and error ang ating curriculum, pero as you observe, no, parang ganun na rin. Kasi nung umattend ako before, no, sa PNU, ayoko nang i-mention kung sinong prof yun. Sinabi nila na syempre karamihan nasa PNU ang nag-design ng K-12 education program. And they did not anticipate, no, ano yung mangyayari sa mga students. Tingnan natin, di ba? Nung nagkaroon ng K-12, parang nabibi yung mga bata, di ba? Parang tumamad sila, parang yung sense of responsibility bumaba. Unlike nung tayo, 'di ba, na graduate tayo ng basic education curriculum from first year, second year, third year, fourth year high school. Alam na natin how to become responsible enough. 'Di ba, as a student. Ba't ngayon na K-12 parang ang daming nagiging tamad na estudyante. And that's a good topic for research. Okay. Okay, in qualitative research, this is actually considered as one factor to be able to design a qualitative research. We consider the philosophical underpinning. So, ontology, what exists. So, ano nga ba yung nandoon sa problem mo na nag-exist? That's ontology. Then, we have this epistemology. How do I know? Ano mo nalaman na may mga nag-exist na mga phenomenon? So I use a double arrow, no, the what do you call that, the if then, no, sa logic. Yan. Yung naka-arrow. So pwedeng mauna si how do I know, pwedeng si what exists. Pero syempre usually sa mga researches, what exists. Then third, axiology, what is valuable. Kaya nga 'di ba, tanong natin, karamihan naman ng mga approaches sa qualitative research ay tumutukoy sa phenomenon. Kaya ba ang dami researchers naglipa na ngayon sa international journal, even sa journal sa Philippines, no, na pag sinabing live experiences, phenomenology agad, which is wrong. No? Kaya nga when I attended the lecture of Dr. Elmer Bondok sa Ace It Up, no, natutuwa ko, no, na oo nga naman, no, na hindi pag sinabing live experiences, hindi agad-agad phenomenology. Pag ba sinabing what are the lived experiences, blah, 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 yun na agad ang statement of the problem? No. Yun lamang ay isang phenomenon. Pero paano mo titingnan ano-ano yung mga essence, no? Kasi hindi siya pwedeng maging as considered as essence kasi yung lived experiences ng isang participant ay iba sa lived experience ng isang participant, no? So I just taken this, no, from the national webinar last April 2020. So alamin natin ano yung mga valuable kasi hindi naman lahat valuable. Okay? So next. So how do we select or choose the methodology for quali? So an experience that is lived by a group of individuals. So ano kaya yan? Mamaya malalaman natin kung anong klaseng method or research design sa quali yan. Second, discovers the social processes common or present within human interactions. Third, understand the hidden context leading to a group think that influences behavior or social patterns. Fourth, unraveling the unknown in a certain era. Diba? Then last, aims to promote social change by identifying solutions to existing problems. Di ba kung titignan nyo, parang, teka lang, parang pare-pareho sinasabi. Pero may kakaiba dyan. No? So yung una, talk about phenomenology. Second, talks about grounded theory. Third, talks about ethnography. Fourth, talks about historical research. And the last, talks about action research. O di ba? Akala kasi ng iba kasi nag-claim ng action research daw ay qualitative lang. Hindi. Pwede rin quanti yan or mix. Depende nga sa takbo ng research mo. At depende rin sa objectives ng research mo. Okay? So qualitative pa more. So according to Dr. Bondo this year, he mentioned that phenomenon exploration is the focus of all qualitative designs. And the design selection is based on the main intent of the exploration. Yes. Di ba lagi tayo nag-explore ng phenomenon eh? Kaya nga, pag sinabi lived experiences, hindi agad-agad phenomenology. Nakita ka lang ng phenomenology agad. No. He firmly believes that lived experience is not always phenomenology, especially is the phenomenon of interest as considered as ill-identified. Kaya nga, we have to identify the phenomenon, the essence, diba? The major theme, the minor themes. Okay? And identifying these themes, no, the essence, the theme, the major, the minor theme, we also have to think, read or exhaust body of literature studies. Kasi mamaya, hindi na yan ang phenomenon sa qualitative research. Tapos, yung pa yung gusto mong i-research. Diba? Okay? Then, ito tanong ko, no, medyo nakakatawa pero straightforward ba talaga ang quantitative research? No? Ito yung sagot ko. If we will be looking at statistical analysis, oo. Bakit? Kasi 'di ba, structured yung statistical analysis natin eh, no? We cannot argue with the prescribed statistics, no? Kasi nakadepende yun sa research question mo. Yun nga lang, pero mahirap alamin ang tunay nitong kulay kasi, 'di ba? May mga sides ng isang polygon na kailangan tingnan. And you know, yon nga, sinasabi ko nga lagi na review related literature studies. Kailangan maayos pa lang. Dapat maayos na agad doon. Kung hindi ka nag-review ng maayos, no, ng related literature studies, hindi mo makukuha yung research gap, pababa na yan. So mahirapan ka ngayong itawid yung topic or research title mo. Okay? So ano ba gagamitin tong research design? Qualitative, quantitative, or mixed designs? So ito yung mga sagot ko. Una, mahirap humusga. Revisit your research objectives and look for essential related literature. Yes, di ba? Kaya nga, ang RRL, makikita mo, meron na sa introduction, di ba? Integrated na doon. But it depends on the structure or the parts na ibibigay sa'yo or the format ibibigay sa'yo ng journal, publication, or dun sa school na pinapasukan mo. Second, kailangan mataas ang pagdulog sa pananaliksik na gusto mong isagawa. What do I mean by this? Pagdulog is approach in English, di ba? Hindi naman kailangan itaas mo yung approach mo sa pananaliksik mo, di ba? Pero there are schools or institutions that are actually imposing this or suggesting or giving this obligatory or compulsory na kailangan ito yung gawin mo na design. Pero teka lang, gone are the days that panelists or critics na ganito yung ginagawa nila na they impose anong design. Really, yun. Kaya nga, di ba, we are there to help our student or student researchers. Kailangan tulungan natin sila. Hindi natin kailangan sila ibaba. Naranasan ko yan, no? Na umalis na sa akin si dati kong advisor, no? Bumitaw na, pati yung head ng panel, bumitaw na. Buti na lang yung second advisor, hindi bumitaw, no? Nandun pa rin sa, kapiling ko pa rin si second advisor. Kaya nga dapat ang advisor mo, mahusay doon sa research na isinasagawa mo. Kasi kung wasabi yan, tatagal ka, baka abutin ka ng ilang taon, no? Or ilang SEB. Ikatlo, sino ba dapat sundin, sarili, advisor, or panelist? O self-reflect ka ba? Ano ibig sabihin nun? Tingnan mo sarili mo, baka si mamaya I mean, pag nag-attitude ka as researcher na bigla mong sinabi, hindi naman po kasi ang gusto ko mangyari sa research ko. Baka baka bigyan ka ng ano niyan, baka personaling ka or pahirapan ka sa research. Kaya nga, mag-reflect ka. And maganda na sinasabi mo concern mo in a nice way. Huwag mo ipakita yung attitude mo na ganito ganyan, no? Kasi mahirap kabangga ang panelist, ang advisor, no? Yung sa akin naman nangyari kasi nagtanong lang ako na doon sa head ng panelist, no? Na head panelist na, "Sir, can you please elaborate further on the things that you wanted me to do in my research paper?" Aba, nagalit. Hindi naman galit yung pagkakasabi ko. Nagpa-thank you pa nga ako. Nagalit. Anong sabi? "Okay, from now on, I'll be looking for a substitute as head of the panel." Eh, hanggang ngayon wala yung head ng panel, di ba? So mga ganyan. Okay na rin na umalis siya kasi wala naman siyang tulong doon sa research. Sorry Okay, number 4. Paano kung ito lang ang given time frame pero gusto nila ipilit ang mga bagay na wala naman sa truth or katotohanan? O balik ka pa rin sa number 3, di ba? So yung number 4 related sa number 3. Magre-reflect ka ngayon sa sarili mo. Kaya nga ako, bago ko ipakita yung attitude ko, kasi minsan ma-attitude talaga ako, parang nakikipag-debate talaga ako kahit sa professor, no? Pero ngayon medyo tone down na. Kasi ako pag alam mo sa sarili kong tama yung sasabihin ko o yung ideas ko, paglalaban ko yun. Kung alam kong mali, hindi na. 'Di ba? So magre-reflect ka pa rin. Sorry, balik ko. 5. Paano kung wala ka nang makitang liwanag sa iyong ginagawa? Anong sagot ko? Pause ka muna, to rest for a while, then go back sa ginagawa mo. Remember, lahat naman ng ginagawa ay kailangan ng pagtitiyaga. Which is true. No? Hindi pwedeng pag tumigil ka ngayon, titigil mo na ng isang buwan, ng isang linggo. No? Pwede magpahinga ka muna ng isang araw. No? You take a rest. Para mamuni-muni mo, ano pa yung mga dapat mong gawin sa paper mo. Diba? Tandaan nyo, huwag kayong gagawa ng research thesis or dissertation or any action research na pagod yung isip nyo, inaantok kayo, gutom kayo. Kasi it will affect the quality that you are writing or producing. Then last, nagtiyaga ka naman pero wala pa rin. Ano next step? Balik ka pa rin dun sa mga taas, no? So 1 to 5. Okay? So these are only my based on what I think, what I experience, no? So this may vary on your own experiences. Okay. So asking right questions and finding right answers. Okay. So first, the first step is to frame your question. And how do we frame our questions? Kaya nga, di ba, pwede kang gumawa ng table mo at table at figure na ilalagay mo doon, no, sa first column, ano yung sinet mong question, tapos ano yung related study or literature sa pangalawang column na pwedeng sumuport doon sa first question mo. Kumbaga, pwedeng masagot. Kasi kung walang related study or citation, di ba, paano mo maipoprove sa panel na pwede sagutin yung number 1, di ba? Same also with quantitative, no? Ano yung particular statistical analysis or tool ang pwede mo or kailangan mong gamitin. Then for finding the right answer, for clinical practice, systematic reviews provide the best evidence. No? Ito yung paniniwala ng ibang mga researcher, no? Meron din ibang paniniwala ang iba. So, tingnan mo, no? Importante kasi sa pag-review ng related literature studies, no? Nagkaaroon ka ngayon ng link, no? Na yung mga sinite mo sa related literature studies mo, pwede mong gamitin para masuportahan yung claim mo sa pagsagot ng mga questions sa iyong statement of the problem. So second, identify the most appropriate study type for answering the question. Yes, di ba? Baka mamaya itong research question 1 mo, 2, etc. ay hindi pala kayang sagutin, no? Or mahirapan kang sagutin, 'di ba? So kailangan mo ng talagang focus ng pag-review or pag-aaral. Here, journal publications would require you the prescribed style of citation. We cannot argue about it, and it's true. Kaya yung sinasabi ko kanina, ano nga bang standard na rigor, no? Siyempre, may kanya-kanyang standard ng bawat school and journal publication. Di ba? Search for essential related literature. Laging meron po yan, hindi mawawala yan. Walang study na walang related literature studies. Kaya nga nung nag-attend ako ng division research colloquium, may nagsabi na speaker, meron daw research na walang related literature studies. Diba? Siyempre, sasakit ulo mo pag ganun. Huwag mo na ituloy yung research mo, wala palang related literature studies. Kaya nga tandaan natin, di ba? When we do researching, it is either replicating the previous research, di ba? Or having our unique or novelty na research. Kahit na ma-replicate, may novelty pa rin naman yan. Di ba? It depends on the scope, the setting, di ba? The way you use the methods of data collection. Something like that, di ba? Okay. Then RRL serves also as your theory and hypothesis building. This is also true. Diba nga? Kaya nga, bago ka gumawa ng research questions, tingin ka muna sa review of related literature studies mo. No? Baka yung gusto mong i-test na hypothesis pala, hindi pala testable. No? So tanggalin mo na yun. Okay? Follow the school policy in writing research. Same with this one. Okay? So these are my takeaways or conclusion. Curriculum teaching, assessment, and policy for education would not become successful without rigorous research. And that's true. No? Never-ending research, pero kailangan rigorous. No? Second, rigorous research depends on some standards set by different organizations and there must be a single standard. Nakangiti ako dyan kasi mahirap yan i-achieve or ma-achieve. Third, asking right questions and finding right answers depends merely on your research objectives, methods, RL, and especially the suggestions and comments of your panel. So be good to them. Diba? Sabi nga ni, nung iba, naalala ko nung when I attended some ETCOR webinars, diba? Pakainin mo na lang ng marami, busugin mo yung panel para hindi na magtanong. Depende pa rin po yun, no? Kung magtatanong si panel o hindi. Pero syempre po, dapat yung paper natin maganda, no? Para smooth yung defense natin. So before I end this tonight's session, let me say this. Sa araw-araw nating buhay, napapagod man, ay kailangan tumayo dahil maraming bagay para bumangon. Ikaw, para saan ka bumabangon? So salamat po at magandang gabi. Hello, sir?
Hi, sir. Yes, sorry. Some difficulty in the internet.
Ay, okay po ba yung presentation ko? Baka nawala ako. Baka nawala.
Sir, nandun ka naman po sa mismong slide niyo kanina.
Sige po.
Ayan.
Pasensya na
Okay,
po,
so-
hindi pa ako nagpapagupit.
Ayan, so thank you so much, Sir Randolph, for that engaging and napakamalaman na presentation. So we're able to learn about research question and in terms of methodology, the speaker was also able to share some inputs about it po. Ayun. So with that, thank you so much, Sir Randolph, for that presentation in our webinar. So that all of the participants and attendees of our virtual webinar was able to learn a lot po from our speaker. So thank you so much po. Ayan. So with that, we are very delighted to spend our evening learning and eventually applying this learning in the conduct of research. A virtual round of applause to our guest speaker, Mr. Randolph Catungal. At this juncture, before we proceed with the question and answer portion, let's have first the oath taking of our new research consultant in our growing family, together with our Dr. Conrad Berkeley, the Deputy Consultant for the Humanitarian Affairs and Organizational Advocacy, which will lead the oath taking of our new research consultants. And then it will be followed by the acceptance speech from one of our ETCOR research consultants, Dr. Laiko. So I'm giving the virtual floor to Dr. Conrad. Hi, Dr. Conrad.
Hey,
Can
sir.
you-
Good evening. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir. Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening po, and thank you so much for the evening speaker. Good evening, Dr. Richard. Can I start the oath taking proper po? So I'm inviting everyone to please open their webcam as I will be checking the attendance or the attendees rather of this oath taking. Okay, to start with the 54 attendees to be uh, taking their oath this evening. Sabi nga po ni Sir Dr. Richard, wala na po bang uurong bago po tayo mag-oath?
Wala pong joke. Oh, ba, Sir Sanchez?
Randolph.
Joke lang.
Okay, thank you po. As I mentioned the name po randomly po para po medyo ano tayo. Since we are on the humanitarian and organizational advocacy, I'll be addressing all the attendees for this oath taking as a professor, and then the rest are doctors. For we are all professionals and we are in the organization of research. So this is a scholarly address. I cannot mention your extension names. Hindi po tayo matatapos kung ma-mention ko yung mga extension names. So allow me to address all the oath takers for this evening as professors and doctors. So these are the list po for the attendance. Meron po akong taga-record dito. So first on the list po, we have Professor Rex S. Lapid. Nandito po ba siya? You can say present po.
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
Thank you. We have also Dr. Don Uriel Buenaventura. I hope I'm pronouncing them correctly, Doc. Doc Buenaventura, nandito po ba siya? Okay po, let's proceed with Professor Rovelyn Eugenio. Okay po. So next we have Professor April Martinez Interino.
Present po. Good evening po.
Thank you so much, Madam. So we have also Professor Donald Rivera.
Present po.
We have also Professor Julie Ann Quezon.
Evening po. Present po.
Thank you so much. So we have Professor Christian Rodendero.
Present po, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Samboy D. Franco.
Present po.
Okay, thank you, Doc. And we have Dr. Edival P. Laico. We have next on the list, we have Professor Christopher D.C. Francisco. Okay, well, we have Professor Ryan B. Aquino.
Present, sir.
We have Professor Ricardo M. Arlos. We have Dr. Nancy T. Obillas. We have Dr. Nobilin T. Barcena. We have Professor Minerva L. Dukulan.
Present, sir.
Thank you so much po, Madam. Professor Shirley F. William.
Present, sir.
Thank you so much. Professor Merveline Michael D. Aldana. Professor Alan Kersey Sampang. Professor Connie Rose Rinopa.
Present, sir.
Dr. Alvin V. Nuki. Professor Harvey Ian C. Sibog.
Present po.
Professor Christel S. Lamson.
Present po.
Professor Jomeric F. Domingo. Dr. Dana G. Veracruz.
Present po.
Dr. Teresita Villar G. Lacaba. Dr. Mary Angie Valentino.
Present po.
Professor Rochelle Baking Calas.
Present po.
Professor Julie Bert S. Fernandez.
Present po.
Professor Arlene Raimundo Monge.
Present
Professor,
po.
thank you so much. Sorry for that po. Professor Christopher E. Desa.
Present.
Professor Elimar Carbanes Echevarria.
Present po.
Did I pronounce that po, Prof?
Yes po.
Thank you so much po. Professor David D. Guzon.
Present po.
Professor Marvin M. Ibabaw. Engineer Hazel F. Nisay.
Present po.
Thank you, Engineer. Professor Jupet Torreño Pentang. Dr. Janet Raimundo Valdez, Professor Samuel A. Quiros,
Present po.
Dr. AC Cruz Almario,
Good day, sir. IC po, sir.
sorry, Doc IC. Thank you so much, Doc Quiros. Dr. AC Lagman, Professor Christine Joy Matilla, Professor
Present
Neil,
po.
thank you. Professor Neil Feliciani, Professor Gina T. Pantillas rather. Thank you.
Present.
Thank you so much.
Present po.
Thank you po. Professor Maria Cristina Miranya,
Present po.
Professor Melusa S. Santos, Professor Jennifer R. Talugon, Professor Jason Nicolas R. Biray, Professor Dr. Floyd G. Aquino, Dr. Gistoni Dulva Maniago.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you, Doc. Professor Rochelle May Oasay.
Present po.
Did I pronounce your surname po, Prof?
Yes po.
Thank you so much po. Professor Ronnie P. Tariman. Professor Yvette Marie Rojas Muico.
Present, sir. Rosas po.
Rosas po. Thank you so much po. Professor Joseph Andrew J. Halover. Professor Ria Camille B. De Jesus. And last on the list, Dr. Enerito M. Klima.
Present, Doc. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Doc. Did I pronounce your surname correctly po?
Yes, it's Klima.
Thank you so much po. So let's have the oath taking proper. I'm inviting everyone to please open their webcams as we raise our right hand properly. And as I announce the statement, so I, and repeat after me, please. So let's repeat that. I state your name.
I, Rochelle
Daniel G.
Maria
Joy
Cristina
Cruz
Mirania.
Matilla,
Solemnly and sincerely
Solemnly and sincerely
Solemnly and sincerely
solemnly and
promise
sincerely
Promise.
promise
and declare
and
and
declare
declare
that I will truly and faithfully,
that
that I will
Truly and
faithfully,
faithfully
to the best of my skills,
to the
best
best
of
best
my
of my
skills,
skills,
knowledge, and abilities,
knowledge and
knowledge
abilities,
and
Abilities.
execute the powers
execute
execute
the
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 powers
powers
Powers.
and trust repose in me.
and
and
trust
trust
repose in me.
Falls on me.
As ETCOR Educational Research Centers,
As ETCOR
and
Educational
educational
Research Center,
take your
education
position, please,
taking a position to
in position to
Research consultant.
so help me God.
research
a research consultant, so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations po and good evening to everyone. God
Thank you,
bless us all.
sir.
you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thank
evening
you
po,
po.
sir.
Sir.
Good evening po.
Thank you
Thank
po.
you.
So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dr. Conrad, for leading the oath-taking of our newly research consultants of our growing organization. So
Thank you, Sir
on behalf
Jefferson.
of our ETCOR, welcome po sa aming organization. So hopefully we could able to meet, not virtually, but in person soon po. Ayan. So thank you so much. And with that, may we call on Doc Likes Lyco to have an acceptance speech in behalf of our newly elected research consultant.
Sir Jefferson, papa-mute mo po yung mga microphone muna ng mga nag-oath. Baka nakalimutan po ng iba. Salamat po.
Okay po. Ayan, okay, so to other participants, can you please mute your microphone so that we could able to have a smooth conversation with our speaker or speech partner. Okay, thank you. Doc Laika, you may now take the virtual floor.
Okay, good evening to everyone. I am Dr. Lagro from the Randolph State University, and I am deeply honored to have been accepted as one of the research consultants of an educational research center. This is our ETCOR, Embracing the Culture of Research. It is indeed a great privilege to be part of this organization, committed to train, capacity, and equip its team in order to provide high level of consultancy or research consultancy services and advocacy, not only in the Philippines but worldwide. So being a part of the educational research center, I will do my best to justify the trust of the organization and contribute to the vision and mission of this ETCOR family. Again, thank you to the ETCOR family and to our God Almighty. Thank you very much.
All right. So thank you so much, Doc Laiko, in your acceptance speech on behalf of all our newly research consultant members of our organization. So welcome po sa ating lahat. And at this juncture, we are now opening the virtual floor for any questions, comments, suggestion, or any clarification with our lecturer for this evening. So right now on our chat box, I don't have any questions na nakikita po. What I can see is all comments, congratulatory message to our lecturer for making this evening engaging with regards to finding the answer to the research question. And they said that the presentation was very informative. The lecturer was very literate and expert in terms of the topic that was discussed. Ayun po. So, is there any question po ba from our virtual audience here in our Zoom meeting with regards to the presentation of Sir Randolph Catungal? Ayan.
Yes, sir.
Ayan. So, hi, Doc Janet Valdez.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Where school are you affiliated po?
I am the research officer at the La Consolacion University, Philippines, in
Ayan, ma'am.
Malolos, in
So,
the
good
city of
evening.
Malolos. I'm just wondering,
Okay.
as to the basis of the lecture of the speaker, was the lecture based on a study of the lecturer? I wasn't able to get it. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, thank you, Doc Janet. So, Sir Randolph.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's based on different articles, and I injected some of the experiences there. Thank you.
Experiences. Okay, because I noticed that there are sweeping state. We are here, and I believe that the forum and discussion would actually gear us towards learning more. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. But actually, syempre, yeah, I know that, ma'am. I know your concern. But actually, I made my PowerPoint, and I do believe that I gave my PowerPoint to the best that I can. Thank you.
Just to share a little bit of what I know, a little bit, just a little
Yes,
bit.
ma'am. Yeah.
One,
Sure po.
it's 2021, and if our study would be considered relevant, we have to consider the time frame, and that means 5 years backward. So if we are presenting it 2021, 2020, 2019, 18, 2017, our literature to be considered significant and relevant should be from 2017 to 2021. So that's one. Another thing is that we have to follow certain format of style in writing. And that would be in terms of our presentation of our citations. So the period should come after the citation, not before the citation at the end of paragraphs. Just to share a little bit knowledge that I know. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that suggestion. But I think even though the year that I cited, it is actually essential or important. Thank you.
Sir, you really have to say the year.
Yes, ano po yun, ma'am?
What was your answer again? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Sabi ko po, ang stand ko lang po. Yes, ma'am. I consider the time frame, but I think also po yung year na binanggit ko po na nasa ito important rin po. Thank you po.
Yes, that's why if the literature will be old enough, what we can do is to have a second citation. That is called second citation, where you have to look for researchers who had used the information recently to make the study relevant. Okay, because if not, then our study will not be relevant, especially in the current world. We are colleagues in this field, and we hope we would like to share whatever we have brought into the organization. I hope this would also be a way. It's a way of learning from each of us. Thank you.
Noted.
All right. So thank you so much, Doc Janet.
Sir Jefferson,
Yes,
may I
sir.
be allowed to share? Unang-una po,
Yes,
I
sir.
would like to thank Dr. Janet Valdez for the sharing. And of course, ang ating na speaker po si Sir Randolph Catungal. Napakaganda po niya, at least we are learning from one another. We are sharing our ideas. Although nag-ask po ako to be allowed to talk, not necessarily to add on that, because nagkaroon naman ng palitan ng kuro-kuro ng sagot, may tanong, may sagot. Kaya nga po napakahalaga na. Actually po, the lecture is about asking the right questions. Napakaganda po, di po ba sa research natututunan natin na sabi nga nila, napakahalaga na tama yung tanong para tamang sagot ang nakukuha natin. Kasi kung merong tanong, merong sagot. Kung merong tanong pero mali ang tanong, mali ang sagot. That is why in research, it is very crucial that we ask the right questions. Kaya nga po, I also appreciate po yung lecture ni Sir Randolph na tinuturuan po niya tayo kung paano to start things right. Yun nga po, sa comment naman po ni Dr. Janet Valdez, well noted po, ma'am. Maraming salamat po at nakakatulong po ito para mas maging ma-improve po yung mga trabaho po natin. And of course, I also would like to share, siguro po nakaligtaan kong ilagay sa note ng moderator or ng speaker din. Of course, dahil ito po ang inyong day 1 ng 3 days na webinar po natin. And the theme is about unveiling the truth and embracing reality through faithfulness with the data, a call of every researcher. If you will allow me po, I just would like to share a little about the theme in itself para po guided yung ating 3 araw na, although magkakahiwalay po, 3 araw na webinar. It's some sort of philosophical, siguro po, na-inspired din ako because I am a graduate of philosophy, yung unveiling the truth, yung unti-unting pagbubukas ng katotohanan at pagyakap sa realidad, yung tinatawag nilang you embrace reality. Bagamat ang katotohanan ay napakahirap tarukin, bagamat ang katotohanan na hindi mo makikita sa sariling anggulo mo lamang, because sabi nga ni Sir Randolph kanina, because we are humans, we are finite. Meron tayong katapusan. Tayo ay namumuhay dito sa mundo ng temporal lamang. Baka nga dumating ang araw na wala na tayo sa mundo ay hindi pa rin natin nakikita ang buong katotohanan. That is why we need a community. Nung nag-aaral po ako sa Mother of Good Counsel Seminary sa MGCS sa San Fernando, bawat taon kasi namin noon, bawat school year namin, we are guided by certain team. Kumbaga lahat ng actions namin ay naka-anchor sa team na yon. I remember one school year, ang team ng community namin doon sa Mother of Good Counsel is searching for the truth as a community. Kaya nga po itong sharing ni Dr. Janet Valdez plus sharing ni Doc Randolph at ako po ay napakahalaga po na that we really appreciate this. Bagamat siguro sabi nga natin, I see certain things sa ganitong anggulo, napakahalaga din na nakikita natin yung anggulong nakikita ng ibang tao. Kasi we have to search for the truth as a community. We cannot just do this alone. And in order to do that, sa research, sa konteksto po ng pananaliksik, napakahalaga na maging faithful tayo sa datos. Sir Jefferson, pwede mo bang pakishare ulit yung poster kanina? Although nabasa ko na kanina, baka maligaw lang ako ng konti. Opo. Kasi yun po yung gusto kong i-emphasize dito na unang-una, we have to search for the truth as a community. Kailangan natin ng kasama, kailangan natin ng ibang tao para makita natin yung buong katotohanan. Because sabi ko nga, we are finite, we are temporal. Actually, yung pagiging finite, pagiging temporal natin yun sa seminaryo na nag-aaral kami, isang buong semester yata ang ganoon ang topic namin. We need a community, and in the context of research, we need to be faithful sa mga datos. Napakahalaga po na kung ano yung pinapakita ng mga datos, kung ano yung binibigay sa atin ng mga datos, hindi tayo lumalampas doon. Bagamat tayo ay mga, sabi nga nila, ang mga tao daw, sorry to use the term, quote-unquote, ay marupok. Tayo ay nadadala. Lalo na sa qualitative research, madalas nilang ginagamit in qualitative research ay subjective daw. Therefore, yung puro interviews lang, mga in-depth interviews, pag-analisa ng mga datos using qualitative data analysis, ang sabi ng iba ay hindi mo 100% mapagkakatiwalaan. Kaya nga po doon pumapasok yung ibang sources of data. Kaya merong in qualitative research na uso yung tinatawag nilang triangulation. Huwag ka lang gagamit ng isang uri ng datos para mag-arrive ka sa truth. Kailangan mo ng suporta ng ibang mga datos, kailangan mo ng suporta ng ibang mga paraan. Ganyan din po sa relationship natin sa ating mga tao. Since we are finite and temporal, kailangan natin ang community, kailangan natin ng makakasama in order for us to arrive at the truth. And in the context of research, in order for us to arrive at the truth, kailangan manatili tayong loyal, faithful doon sa mga datos. So, ganun po ang tema ng 3-day webinar kasi po nandito na po si Sir Randolph sa bandang dulo ng research kung saan nandun na tayo sa pagkolekta ng datos, sa pag-analisa ng mga datos na hanggang doon lang tayo, huwag tayong lalampas. Kasi pag lumampas ka sa datos, baka kung minsan hindi na yung research ang inilalabas mo kung hindi yung sarili mo na. Although mahalaga rin po yung integration of course ng sarili dahil tayo ay mga tao. Hindi tayo mga machine na kung ano lang binibigay niya, yun lang. Napakahalaga rin na may sarili tayong interpretation. But we really have to be faithful talaga doon sa mga datos. Kaya nga po ang ating, alam niyo po, napakatagal din natin pinag-iisipan ng mga themes na ginagamit natin sa research natin. Kaya nga po itong Unveiling the Truth and Embracing Reality Through Faithfulness with the Data, sabi ko po dito sa dulo, it is a call of every researcher. Hindi ka magiging magaling na mananaliksik kung hindi ka faithful sa datos. Hindi ka magaling na mananaliksik kung hindi mo nakikita yung anggulo na nakikita rin ng ibang tao. Kaya po, ayun po, that is my sharing po about sa theme na nakalimutan ko pong ipa-integrate sa lecturer at sa moderator. Maraming salamat po.
Ayan, so thank you so much, Sir Doc Richard, our guru here in ETCOR, for providing us the more detailed about the concept of the 3 days webinar that we are doing right now here in the virtual room. And as mentioned also by some of our ETCOR research consultant here, according to Ma'am Edible Laiko. Yes, sir, I agree. We can learn from one another considering that we have different research orientations. Happy to be part of this group with different intellectual giants, which is true po that we have our individual differences in terms of how we deal with research. And it's a good thing that we are sharing our own expertise, own idea, so that we could able to, consolidate everything and achieve our goal and objective for the organization. Ayan po. And also, according to Ma'am Arlene Monge, the beauty of education is that we learn to learn and learn to unlearn, an honor to learn from everybody po. Ayan. So, is there any more questions from
Hello
our
po.
virtual?
Good evening po.
Yes, sir.
Can I?
Samboy Franco. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Richard. Good evening also, Dr. Catungal, and to my fellow research consultants. For Dr. Catungal, we are truly
Hindi pa ako
grateful for
doctor,
your...
sir. Hindi pa ako
Okay,
doctor.
okay. Prof. Catungal, we are truly grateful for your valuable contribution. By listening to your excellent presentations and discussion, I'm sure we have gained a deeper understanding on the vital and essential role of developing the right questions in developing research and eventually finding the right answers. I have listed here two salient points. These are not actually questions, but reactions siguro, no, sir? First point, you were very brilliant in pointing out the significance of research, policy, and practice. However, the triangulation of policy, research, and practice is not always evident despite the willingness and engagement of these different factors. Now, I am looking forward that the ETCOR, hello, Dr. Richard, our organization will lead the educational system of the nation in developing studies on the perceived flow of knowledge between policy, practice, and research, the perceived impeding factors, and the suggested strategies for improvement. Sana po magawa natin. And next point, you have mentioned about language acquisition. Language acquisition happens differently for everyone and remains largely a mystery. Tama po kayo doon. Thank you for ideas, sir. I got your point. However, for the curriculum reviewers, there does seem to be one common theme that researchers have come to agree in the recent years, which is that the second language acquisition is typically much smoother when students are allowed to develop and advance in their first language. Yung lamang po, marami pong salamat. Congrats again, sir. Prof. Randolph.
Sige, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Sir Samboy Franco, thank you so much for sharing insights and at the same time experiences in regards to the research thing and related to the topic that our lecturer was able to share this evening. Ayan. So thank you so much, Sir Franco. Ayan, so is there any more questions from our virtual audience? Clarification, suggestion, or sharing of ideas? Okay. I think we don't have any more questions. Tama po ba ako? Ayan. So we will now be proceeding to the awarding. But before that, for the evaluation of the webinar that we had this evening, you may now see the Google link that you can see in your screen right now for the evaluation. So I will just copy and paste po the link here so that you could able to proceed with the actual link. So the evaluation will be available within 24 hours and it will be sent, the evaluation link was also sent to your email, respective email, before the day of the ETCOR event. Ayan po. And now we are going to award the certificate of appreciation or recognition to our distinguished lecturer for this evening. Ayan po. So allow me to read the citation. So embracing the culture of research at COR, Educational Research Center, Santa Ana, Pampanga, Philippines, presents this certificate of recognition to Randolph G. Catungal, MSMA, for his invaluable time and expertise as a research speaker in the national webinar on Practical Research 1, Qualitative Research and Practical Research 2, Quantitative Research of ETCOR Educational Research Center, held on May 5, 12, and 26, 2021, and conducted under the advocacy Project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for everyone, with advisory from the Department of Education. signed by Dr. Bernadette L. Lejarde, LPT, MAGC, PhD, Overall Project Coordinator, and Dr. Richard D. Sanchez, LPT, PhD, the head of the research consultant. So let's give a round of virtual applause to Sir Randolph Catungal for this. Ayan. Ayan. So congratulations, Sir Randolph. So with this, I am asking everyone to kindly please turn on your video so that we could able to have our photo opportunity together with our lecturer for this evening and to all our new research consultants. So open po tayo ng camera. Ayan. So everyone po, yung iba po, ayan. So I have 4 panels in our Zoom meeting. So medyo madami lang pong shots tayong gagawin. Ayan. So first panel po natin. So in the count of 3, virtual smile po. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Ayan. So let me just paste po the file, the picture po. Wait lang po. Ayan, second panel po. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right. And then the third panel. 1, 2, 3, smile. And lastly, the fourth panel. 1, 2, 3, smile. Ayan. All right, so that is our photo opportunity for this webinar series. And we would like also to invite all of you to witness again the day 2 and day 3 of our 3 days webinar for the team Unveiling the Truth and Embracing Reality to a Faithfulness with Data, a call of every researcher. So the day 2 about the topic reporting findings, drawing conclusions and make recommendations, to be led by Sir Jose M. Barlis, faculty member from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Bataan branch. And on the third day, or the day 3, which will be held on May 26, by Dr. Ulysses Yu from the Elementary and High School Chinese Supervisor, St. Stephen High School, Santa Cruz, Manila, Philippines. And we would like also to announce to everyone that our t-shirts for the ETCOR are now available. So you may now contact our Facebook page, and at the same time, some of the info here on how are you going to get our shirts po. So available po yan ng polo shirts and t-shirts po, black and white po. So for orders and inquiries, you may contact Blueprint Shop owner, Dr. Mark Sanggil. So hindi po si ETCOR yung direct na nagbebenta po, but the Blueprint Shop, which is owned by Dr. Mark Sanggil, which is also a research consultant here in our organization. So the mobile number is provided in your screen and his email address. So if you wish to purchase the t-shirt or polo shirt, you may contact po the details that you can see in your screen right now. Ayan po. And to deliver the closing remarks for this webinar series, may I call on the ETCOR Research Consultant, Training Specialist, Administrative Officer for Training Branch, Office of the Assistant Chief of the Staff for Operations, Civil Military Operations Group of the Philippine Navy, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. So without further ado, may I give the virtual floor to Ma'am Arlene Raimundo Monge. Hi ma'am, good evening po.
Good evening. Thank you very much, sir. Such a mouthful ang haba ng pangalan ko. Anyway, on behalf of the growing ETCOR family, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who took their valuable time and effort to be with us on this memorable day. We would also like to extend our gratitude to the hardworking and dedicated pioneers and proponents of our beloved organization, headed by Dr. Richard Sanchez, sir. Thank you very much for paving the way for us aspiring research champions to have a viable plenary that will showcase our expertise and our prowess as researchers, but also an avenue to expand our knowledge on this relevant field. Rest assured, sir, that this will not be the last, as we continue to be faithful in fulfilling our commitment of being in service to others. With that, may we enjoy the rest of the evening. Keep safe until our next forum. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Ayan. So, thank you so much, Ma'am Arlene Raimundo Monge, for that inspiring closing remarks for our webinar and organization. So, we look forward to meet all of you again in our succeeding activities and program of our organization. And we wish you all the best during this time of pandemic. Have a safe night. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay sanitized. And thank you so much for attending our webinar. Mabuhay po ang lahat and God bless you all. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
po
much, sir.
lahat. Maraming